Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for another this and that video that I try to put out every Monday. And if you're new to my channel, what these are just a weekly vlog that I do, letting you know what's going on, leading you back to some old videos I may have on the topics I'm going to be talking about, letting you know that of videos that are coming out, or even answering some questions that I've had in this past week. So let's get started. Now you might see I'm wearing fall colors today because even though it's early September, it has been feeling like fall here since the middle of August. But I figured why not get a jump start on it and put on my fall colors because, well, I like fall and I like those colors. And speaking of, I want to show you a picture of one of my more recent sunflowers that opened up right here. This, I believe, is supposed to be the Velvet Queen, and though it's absolutely beautiful and I'm very happy with it, it's not really what I thought it was supposed to be. This right here is what I thought it was supposed to look like. That was what was advertised. Now, I don't know if it's a difference in maybe my soil conditions or just maybe a little tweaking somebody did with their original picture. But if anyone knows of a sunflower that is a deep, dark burgundy red for certain, like I heard somebody mention a chocolate cherry, please put your suggestions down below because I definitely want to grow that color for sure next year, but I want to make sure I get the right seed. Now, I'm really happy with the sunflowers I got this year. They all have done very good for me. And I would still like to add that dark red in there though. And I am going to be selling the seeds from these and the Autumn Beauty. I'm thinking about mixing them together as an autumn blend because they're very similar in color. Here's what the Autumn Beauty looks like. And they're pretty similar. One's just more red than the other. Before I continue with some of these other topics, let's just talk about a couple more garden related things going on. So my cucumbers have finally started putting out some cucumbers. Now, normally the straight 8 cucumbers just do awesome for us in the greenhouse only and produce a lot, but for the past, last year I wasn't able to get any cucumbers to germinate. This year I finally got some to germinate, but even then they've really been slow in producing and we're not getting very much. Now, there's still more out there developing, and you know, I think we'll do just fine. Normally we just like cucumbers for snacking on fresh anyway. And usually what happens is we get so many in at once we can't keep up on them as, you know, just eating fresh. So it'll probably be okay. We'll see what happens next week. I think we'll start seeing a few more. But, and then I just started harvesting some of my Chinese 5-color peppers, which are so far my favorites for production, for their beauty, because they get all 5 colors on the same plant. And I know I've said this before, but how they don't have all these different colors coming in at the same time. They actually start off as purple. They have a purple flower and the pepper starts growing in as purple. Then it goes from purple to cream, from cream to yellow, and then of course you'll have various color stages in between, like a light orange, a darker orange, and even darker orange, and then the last color they turn is red. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with them. Last year I chopped them up small and put them in half-pint mason jars and put them in the freezer. The whole idea was to take out a little at a time to add to meals because they are pretty warm. It doesn't matter what stage you pick them at in color. Once they reach their full size, they're just as hot when they're purple as they are when they're red. It doesn't matter. The year before I made hot sauce out of them, and I think I did a video on that I'll link to down below. Still got tomatoes coming in. They've kind of slowed down a little bit, but I think it's because it just got really cold for the past several days. But I'm also seeing more coming on and getting ripe. And so I just been bringing them in. I did can those ones up like I talked about in my last video, and I still have lots of tomatoes canned up for that go clear back to 2016. So I really don't need to can up anymore. So the rest I'm going to be dehydrating. My favorite thing to do is to make tomato flakes. I did do a video on this. It's a pretty old one, but I'll go ahead and talk you through the process of how I make the tomato flakes. And that is, I simply cut up the tomatoes. Whenever I'm using tomatoes, it doesn't matter if I'm canning them or using them for dehydrating. I use the whole tomato, everything but the stem. I chop it up so seeds, skins, everything stays put. I don't go through all that trouble of taking it off. But some people don't like having the seeds and the skins in there, and I get that. You might want to take that extra step. I just don't bother, especially if you're throwing it in a blender like I do for making the flakes. That's going to make those skins really tiny. You shouldn't notice anything in there. Just process it up in the blender. And then, even though normally when I'm dehydrating things, I use my little cloth covers I made out of some recycled cotton sheets. If you're doing this, you want to make sure you're using a good natural fabric like cotton, because not only is it going to be more breathable, it's going to be more natural and safer for your food contact. But in this case, for doing the tomatoes like this, I do still go back to these trays. I know you can do silicone, but I have yet to see any where they have the curved edges on the outside and then on the inside. So this is for the Nesco style. And so I did go ahead and go back to using these, and what I do is I just spread a little bit of oil. It can be almond oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, whichever you prefer. I'll spread a little bit of that oil onto the tray first, and then I'll pour the tomatoes all blended up onto the tray and let them dry. And it takes about a good day for them to fully dehydrate at about 110 to 115 degrees. And then once they're fully dehydrated, I just take them and I crunch them up with my fingers like that. And then I put them in my jar. And once my jar is full, then I'll vacuum seal it like this one here is. So this jar here is from 2019. I think it's the oldest one I have right now. And what I like to do with the tomato flakes is I'll have my canned tomatoes, and then I'll use the tomato flakes to thicken up. Since most of the tomatoes I've been growing for the last couple of years have not been the more your paste tomatoes like your Romas. I get some, but for some reason last couple of years they haven't done as well as they normally do, but my other tomatoes do. So that means I end up with a lot more liquid in those tomatoes when I process them up. So even more so, having the flakes where all of the moisture has been removed from them, not only do they take up less room in storage doing it this way, is that then I can use them to thicken up the sauce. If you decide not to can any tomatoes, is dehydrate them all up like this and then just add water to them as needed to make it into as thick of a sauce or paste that you want. That way you don't have to depend on store-bought tomato paste, or you don't have to take your tomatoes and cook them down for days on end to get a nice thick paste. The reason I do not powder them, and I covered this in another video on things to consider before you start powdering up your stuff, is tomatoes are one of those things that if you powder them up, you want to always keep them vacuum sealed tightly. If you take any out, vacuum seal it up between every use, because tomato powder will turn into a brick in your jar if you turn it into a powder, or at least consider storing it in smaller jars to begin with, so you're not having to work through as much at a time. I would prefer to do this, even though it takes up more room than powder. And then if I do want it powdered, I just throw it in I can throw it in the blender and powder it up. But usually I'm adding it to something that's already liquid, whether it be soup, and maybe I want to have a little bit of that tomato flavor in the soup. I can throw the powder in there, or adding to the sauces to thicken them. These will cook up and just break right up. They won't stay in their flake form when they're cooking into your sauces. So this is my preferred method. And then the other way I like to dehydrate, though I haven't done it in a couple of years. In fact, these are from 2018. Once I get this jar filled up, I'm going to take the rest of my tomatoes and then dehydrate them up like this. These are nice for adding to soups where you want pieces of tomatoes, if you like that. So yes, I spread the oil on there and then cut them up and then just let them dehydrate. But I will be trying the cloth covers and see how well it works for those. They will stick, but I think I should be able to get those off. And obviously in that case, I'm not going to be putting oil on the cloth cover, but I should be able to peel them off of there just fine. And if you'd like to see my video on how I made my cloth covers, super simple. I'll just go ahead and link to that down below in case you're interested. And then the other thing was I recently got in my most recent order from Azure Standard. I don't order from them a lot just because we don't have a drop point near us, and it can cost a lot in shipping. So I usually wait, maybe order every 4 months or so, maybe only twice a year. So my most recent order, I thought I would try their own wild rice blend. I haven't opened up the bag yet. In fact, maybe I should do that so we can see what it looks like. I like using the wild rice blend for making my own homemade stuffing, a wild rice stuffing that goes into our turkey for Thanksgiving. And yep, this looks very much like the Lundberg rice that I use. Looks like the same blend. And I was able to get this for a better price on Azure Standard than I normally do the Lundberg. There's different types of wild rice. If you go with the black wild rice solely, it's very expensive. And I like having the blend because it has the different colors in it anyway. So the blend is a little cheaper when you go with that than going with just plain wild rice. The other thing I got was another big huge bag of oats. I get the best deal for oats, even considering the cost of shipping that I have to pay because I'm not using the drop point. It's still the best deal per pound. And then I also got a bag, a 25-pound bag of split peas. So I have a bag of split peas that's going to be for us for making split pea soup and stuff. And then the other bag is for my chickens. Normally I only give them the split peas, add it to their scratch in the spring and summer when they're laying. That's when they're more apt to eat it and they need more protein anyway. I don't add it to their scratch in the winter because they won't eat it in the winter time. And I figured that's simply because they don't need it. But some chickens will eat them and some chickens won't, but split peas can be very good for them and be a way to add more protein. You'd think they'd eat it more in the winter because there's less bugs and stuff for them to gather, but whatever. I mean, they just don't. So I don't do that, but that's why I did stock up on some more of that. Just so you know how Azure Standard works, we don't have an affiliate account, but we can share referral links. And one thing that's been really nice about that is when people go through our referral links, especially since shipping for us can cost us quite a bit of money, every time you go through a referral link, we get a credit to our account so that by the time I go to place the order, usually I have enough built up in there from people going through the referral links that it not only covers the cost of shipping, but also we get a pretty good discount on our whole order. So that helps make up the difference for us not having a drop point near us, and actually makes it easier because I can still have it delivered here and pay even less than I would if I had to drive all the way into town, which is the closest drop point is 60 miles away. If I had to drive all the way in there, I got to consider cost of fuel, my time, and the wear and tear on the rigs to and from. And, then pay that price, even though it's minus the shipping, I'm still paying all these other costs on top of it just to go pick it up. So anyway, we really appreciate that. I will go ahead and put a referral link to this and maybe a couple of their Azure Standard items that I like to purchase if you're interested in checking that out. And then a couple more things I wanted to talk about was I recently had a video come out on arts and crafts items and being prepared in that area and why it's important even if you're not big into arts and crafts. And some people had asked about the treadle machine belts, and then I got to looking at my supply and decided I needed to stock up on some more. Well, I always get mine on Amazon because it changes all the time. I can give you the link to these ones I just bought. It's actually a set of 4, but you do got to be careful because I did one time, the first time I bought, it was supposed to be a roll of 25 feet and they sent me a chunk this big, and that's not even big enough for one machine, obviously. The company, I kept writing to them, they wouldn't refund my money. Amazon took care of it. Even though Amazon has its bad points, it does have its good points. They've always been good at taking care of any issues. Here was another one that just happened to me was I had ordered a 2-pack of washing soda and it kept being delayed. And then I forgot about it because of the wedding and all that. And then I just remembered it the other day. It's like, whatever happened to that 2-pack of washing soda I was supposed to get? So I go into my account and notice it said it was delivered, and get this, not only did they say it was delivered even though it hadn't been, they charged me $90 for shipping on 2 boxes of washing soda when it was supposed to be free. So I got in there, I actually contacted them. Their store's not even open anymore, which tells you something, but they did immediately refund me the cost of the shipping and the items, but for whatever reason didn't refund me the tax I paid, which that tax was charged on the shipping, the outrageous shipping. So they told me to contact Amazon. So I contacted Amazon and immediately they took care of the rest of it just like that. So I got all my money back on that. And I have to say they've always been good to me in that area. So anyway, I'll put a link to these for those who are interested in the treadle machine belts. And I'll also link down to that video I did on the arts and crafts preparedness. There was a lot of things I didn't think to mention that some people brought up about having supplies for darning socks. And if you're interested in that, I actually do have videos on sock darning. I'll put my most recent one down below. Patrick even has a video out on how he makes sock darners, and he will eventually probably get back into making sock darners for our store, but he's sold quite a few of those on our Etsy store. I can't guarantee when they'll be back up, but eventually he'll be getting back into making the sock darners. And then the bentonite clay. This is something I've been asked about a lot. Just like anything else, when it comes to Amazon links in particular, a lot of times links on my old videos, they change all the time because sometimes that product is no longer available, or it's offered in a different price or a different size, and I don't have time to go over the well over 1,400 old videos I have out there to figure out what links are good and what are not. But this is my most recent purchase, and it's been the best one I've seen yet. So if you're interested in getting some bentonite clay to stock up on, which I do recommend, make sure you get food grade. And this one was 5 pounds, so it's the biggest bag I've bought. Normally I'll get it from Star West or Frontier. I have a video on bentonite clay, its uses and what it's good for, that I'll also link down below. If you're unfamiliar with bentonite clay, it can be taken internally, it can be used externally. It has a lot of great purposes. And remember, some of these things that I link to from Amazon, especially when it's like herbs and stuff like that, you can also go over to VitaCost. They usually have sometimes better prices at VitaCost for those same brands like the Star West and Frontier, but they don't always carry the same amount that they do on the storefronts. Like Frontier has their own storefront on Amazon, and Star West has their own storefront on Amazon, and they have a lot more in there. And a lot of times with both those brands, they're my two favorites when it comes to herbs I don't already grow. They're mostly organic. You can read that not everything they sell is organic, but most of them are. And you can usually get those through subscribe and save on Amazon and save even more money. So that's a win-win there too. So whichever you got to do to that works best for you, I totally understand. And just remember, one of the reasons a lot of us channels do have Amazon links, their affiliate links, is because that also does help us financially, but I really understand why people don't go through those links. Just watching our videos, giving us a thumbs up and giving us comments does a lot to really help our channel right there, and that costs you nothing. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, and for the first time since this whole big scare that's been going on out there, we've had our first real breakouts here in our little small remote town. Even though we're a tourist town and people come and go and come and go, now that so many people have gotten the jabs around here, all of a sudden now we're having outbreaks. And with that in mind, I wanted to remind everyone, I do have a video that I did at least a year ago about some natural antivirals and immune boosters, and it's a list. It's a pretty extensive list, but it's still not totally exhaustive. It doesn't have every single herb and every single antiviral, but it is a pretty thorough list that I've also typed up and have where you can copy and paste it, and I'll have a link to that, and that goes to our Patreon account. Our Patreon, I don't use it that much, I don't think to, but just know our Patreon is, as far as I know, we might be the only ones out there that do it this way. Our Patreon, every post is open to everyone. You do not have to pay a dime to go see anything in there. I do have some of my written recipes there. I don't have a lot of written recipes because a lot of things I just throw together, which is why I started YouTube in the first place. But when I do have a written recipe on something, even if I do have video recipes on them, some of them you can find the written ones over there on Patreon. And again, you don't have to pay anything. You can find the link in the description box down below. No donation required. Yes, you'll see a little box pop up on the side. It's just a sidebar that says, you know, different amounts you can donate if you want, but it's not required. You can click on any post and it should open up for you no matter who you are. And I just prefer it that way. I don't like making special clubs for people where other people might feel left out. That's just not my way. And I don't think people should have to pay when I can offer information that costs you nothing here on YouTube. We just get paid for your views. We get paid the ad revenue, and that's how we can stay here. Between that and Amazon is how we can make our money so that you can still get free information. So anyway, go check out that video on antivirals. There's a lot of information in there, and there's so many different herbs and things that you can grow or put together for yourself. And we're all going to be different in what we like best and what works best for us and what we can use, because some people are already on medications or have allergies, so not everything that I do for ourselves is going to work for you. And a lot of people can't grow or even find certain things to purchase in their area. So having a pretty extensive list on different natural remedies for different things should be pretty helpful to everyone. That's why I've been coming out with this series. So I have one on natural pain remedies, I have one on natural anti-anxiety remedies and anti-stress, and so on, and there's more to come. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed my this and that for the week, and don't forget to check out the links down below. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.